China may manufacture and export everything from needles to cars to the world, but it lacks one thing that only America possesses. On the 2nd of April, 2025, American President Donald Trump comes before the media at the White House holding a very large red card. Let me know if you'd like it to sound more formal or dramatic. This red card listed the names of several countries along with their tariff rates. President Trump read out the rates for each country one by one, and with that, a wave of fear spread across the world. Stock markets in the US and around the globe crashed, as this was seen as a signal of a massive upcoming conflict. Let me know if you'd like to tweak the tone more formal, journalistic, or dramatic. It's a kind of war where the weapon is power, and the ammunition for that weapon is money. Yes, we can call it a trade war or a tariff war. Donald Trump played such an indirect move that it could bring the world's most powerful trading nation, China, to its knees if this trade war actually happens. Want it with a more intense or new style flair? I can adjust it. Who will have the upper hand in this, China or the United States? Viewers, to properly understand this matter, let's first talk about tariffs. Most people think that a tariff is simply a kind of tax imposed on other countries, but in reality, it is actually a kind of import duty that will only be applied to products imported into the United States. So, if the US has imposed a 26% tariff on India, it means that products coming from India will be taxed at 26% upon entering America. Similarly, according to Donald Trump's list, this red card listed the names of several countries along with their tariff rates. President Trump read out the rates for each country one by one, and with that, a wave of fear spread across the world. Stock markets in the US and around the globe crashed, as this was seen as a signal of a massive upcoming conflict. Let me know if you'd like to tweak the tone more formal, journalistic, or dramatic. It's a kind of war where the weapon is power, and the ammunition for that weapon is money. Yes, we can call it a trade war or a tariff war. Donald Trump played such an indirect move that it could bring the world's most powerful trading nation, China, to its knees if this trade war actually happens. Want it with a more intense or new style flair? I can adjust it. If a Harley-Davidson model is priced at 1.5 Indian rupees lakhs, and if no taxes are imposed on it in India, it would be available at the same price as locally manufactured Royal Enfield bikes. So, when customers get both bikes at the same price, everyone would prefer to go for the American brand. People would prefer it, and this would lead to significant harm to India's local bike industry. That's why tariffs or import taxes are intentionally imposed on bikes coming from abroad to make them more expensive. This approach has several benefits. First, it helps keep the local industry running, and second, it saves foreign exchange as well. It is obvious that anyone importing American bikes will ultimately have to send US dollars back to the United States, which will lead to a reduction in India's foreign currency reserves. Now, since the tariff has been imposed by the United States, it means that goods coming into the US from other countries will be taxed, making those products more expensive in the American market. They will become more expensive, which will lead to a decrease in their sales in the US market. As a result, people will prefer to buy locally manufactured products. For example, textiles from India and Pakistan are sold in American markets, but the same textiles can also be produced within the US due to the imposition of taxes. The sales of the textile industry in India and Pakistan will decline. It will be noticed, but the country that is going to be most affected by the tariffs imposed by Trump is China. In fact, it is even being said that Donald Trump's real target was China all along. This is because, until the year 2000, American products were exported all over the world, a status that China holds today. Earlier, the United States used to dominate, but over time, not just America, but the entire world's business shifted to China. Now, even the smallest of things are manufactured in China and exported to every corner of the world. Due to cheap labor, China is able to produce any product at a very low cost. It becomes possible for China to easily compete with international market prices. Globally, China has almost dominated the entire world with its products, and local industries are gradually disappearing. If we look only at the trade between the USA and China, then in the year 2000, the United States imported goods worth $80 billion from China, while China imported goods worth only a few $billion from the US in the same year. As of 2025, the situation is that the US imports goods worth $400 billion from China every year, whereas China imports only around $145 billion worth of goods from the US. Donald Trump says, in the year 2000, the United States imported goods worth $80 billion from China, while China imported goods worth only a few $billion from the US in the same year. As of 2025, the situation is that the US imports goods worth $400 billion from China every year, whereas China imports only around $145 billion worth of goods from the US. Donald Trump says earlier, the control used to be with America, but over time, China has taken over not just America's business but that of the entire world. Now, even the smallest of items are manufactured in China and exported to every corner of the globe. Because of cheap labor, China is able to produce any product at such a low cost. In the year 2000, the United States imported goods worth $80 billion from China, while China imported goods worth only a few $billion from the US. That trade gap has only widened over time. As of 2025, the US imports goods worth $400 billion from China every year, whereas China imports only about $145 billion worth of goods from the US. According to Donald Trump, it should be a trade balance, meaning if we are buying goods worth $440 billion from China, then China should also buy goods worth the same amount. However, there is a difference of $295 billion, and this difference is called the trade deficit. To balance or reduce this trade deficit, Donald Trump took action against China. China was targeted, and as a result, the prices of products coming from China, especially smartphones, will rise significantly in the US. Among these smartphones, the Apple iPhone will be particularly affected. Although it is an American product, it is manufactured in China. So when these products come from China, when these products are imported from China, they will become more expensive. As a result, their industries will move out of China and shift back to the US. This is exactly what Donald Trump wants, but China does not. Just look at how most of the products of American tech giant Apple, from iPhones to Apple watches, are manufactured in China. Apart from that, Tesla cars, Dell and HP laptops, Nike and Skechers shoes, LG and GP accessories, Black & Decker and Stanley products, and even toys from American companies like Mattel or Hasbro, all are manufactured in China. If all these companies wind up their plants in China and move back to the US, then America will. Every year, the US will need to import around $200 billion less worth of goods from China, and the trade deficit will reduce from $295 billion to just around $80 or $90 billion. While this will certainly benefit the US in one way, the higher production costs in America will make these products more expensive, then it will ultimately be a loss for these companies themselves. But it seems that Donald Trump is determined to break China's monopoly at any cost, even if it means bearing some losses himself. On the other hand, China also doesn't want this to happen, and that's why when Trump increased taxes on Chinese products, so China also imposed additional taxes on American products, and now this situation seems to be taking the form of a trade war. Neither the Chinese president is backing down, nor does it seem like Donald Trump has any intention to do so. Both countries have imposed so many taxes on each other that trade between China and the US has become increasingly complicated. If something costs $10, it will now start coming at double the price, and the same is happening in China as well. But here, the key point is to see which of these two powers holds the upper hand in this trade war. The one that survives longer will be the winner. Looking at the situation, the US imports most of its tech items from China. If products like mobile phones, laptops, electronics, or toys are not imported for a while, it wouldn't impact the US that much. Or, if these products are imported from another country, they might just become a little more expensive. However, China imports something from the US that is crucial, without which China would face a lot of difficulties. Yes, this product could potentially create a big issue for China in the coming months. Let's understand, China's total population is 1.41 billion, which is 315% larger than the American population. To feed such a large population, obviously, a lot more food is needed, and the most basic of the essential items are wheat and rice. The problem is that China has only 13% of its total area as agricultural land, which means there's just 0.23 acres of land per Chinese citizen. Most of this land is used to grow wheat and rice, so that basic food items don't need to be imported. But this only covers the basics in China. Pork is consumed in massive quantities, so much so that China has the largest pig farming industry in the world. According to 2024 records, there are more than 400 million pigs in China, which is even more than the population of humans in the United States. Pigs are found in large numbers, and pork consumption is one thing globally, while China has its own distinct demand. Now, it's clear that to feed these 400 million pigs, something is required. They are given corn for energy and soybeans for protein. Their feed consists of 60% corn and 40% soybeans. 80% of the corn